You are being recorded. Ken's coming in as well.
Okay. Hi, Ken.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay, we're just coming to order right now. So let's start with approval of the March minutes, if somebody would like to make a motion.
I will. It's Joanne.
I'll second it.
Okay, do we have any discussion on these? They look good. I didn't see anything that needed. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This is such a big group, it's hard to keep track. Okay. Minutes, motion passes. Joe, you have the,
Yeah,
sorry to get it to you so late.
that's okay. As long as I have it before 6:30, I'm fine. As of right now, we still have $20,460.11 available.
It's all going to go at once when
Yeah.
it goes.
We haven't had the opportunity to use everything we planned to so far, so. Update on businesses in town.
Well, it should be endorsed, so.
Huh? You all get the sheet about the three new
Yep.
adoption of trade names. It's and I sent it to Ashley too, so she doesn't have to take notes on it.
Yep, I got it.
And one other, speaking of that, I did bring the February list to the last business association meeting so that TBA can contact them also if they want to. We didn't have any in March, so I gave them the February list. There's one other one. We had a new person come to TBA. She had a business in Shrewsbury. She does websites, content writing, and she just moved into town. So I don't know if we'll hear from her through the town hall, but she's at least interested in the TBA. Yeah, it's called Your Page Today, LLC. Anything else on businesses?
Brian, I didn't see the note that you talked about with the three coming on, but I know of one that will be coming up if it hasn't already, and if it may have been on that list. Wilsonville Herb Farm. Do you have anything on that?
Was that up last time?
I don't know. They had an issue with the permitting that required inland wetlands to go look at it. And it
Okay.
is 149 Wilsonville Road, so it's down on the end closest to the French River. And
Okay.
they purchased a barn and they're renovating it to be a farm store where they will sell organic herb plants, native plants, and more. So I was over there the other day and saw it. And
Okay, yeah, we brought that one up, Charlie, in February.
okay,
So I do have a slip on that. Yeah, I'm just looking at February's agenda. It sounded familiar, that's all. But,
okay,
yeah,
just
thank you. Yeah, it's easy to miss these. So, you know, anything that you see like that, make sure at least we have it. That was also on the list that I gave the TBA. Yeah, I haven't noticed anything else going on in town. I see the dinosaurs are uncovered.
Yeah,
at minutes ago.
I think they started playing golf there already.
Did they? I haven't seen them play, but I did notice that they're uncovered, so that's good. Okay. Well, do we have citizens' comments pertaining to agenda items? I guess
Ken and
not.
Amy, it's your time to shine.
Just looking forward to the Makers Fair in another couple of weeks there. You do have the support of the board so far. We did have a discussion on the LED sign, and Tira did get us some more information. So that is, moving forward, which is great. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
Oh, you saw that response from Graphics Unlimited this afternoon, Ken?
I'm looking at it as we speak.
Very good.
I'm trying to find out how it's operated online, but it said it's cloud-based, and it's kind of what I kind of remembered, that we would able to control it without a problem. So that's great.
Yeah, because that means you can control it even with a phone.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah,
the concern that we had was whether or not it was subscription-based, for support or whatever. That was a question, I believe, that came up last night.
Yeah, I can read you the response that Joel had from Graphics Unlimited, so that everybody knows. In general, the Cirrus Blade M9mm sign is cloud-based software. Screen Hub allows you to create, schedule, and organize content from anywhere on any device. Cirrus offers free cloud software training and support for the lifetime of your sign. They also include software updates for the life of your sign. Upon Graphics Unlimited placing an order for your sign, Cirrus will reach out to you and training can begin. When the sign is installed, you will know how to operate it and have messages and slides ready to post. Graphics Unlimited will install the sign, and once the electrician connects power, Cirrus will activate the sign and test performance during the initial setup with whoever is going to be operating the sign. The electrician will work with the factory during the initial setup, making sure that everything is operating as it should. When you have a minute, go to Cirrus, CIRRUSLED.com and click the LED/displays page. This page will provide you with more information and yada, yada, yada. So that question did come up last night, and it wasn't on the quote sheet that he sent me, so I could not reply at the time.
Kara, this is Amy. This is Amy St. Ange. I did not get to read through that email yet. I know Suzanne had, because I spoke to her earlier today briefly, and she still had concern that there might be, because it's cloud-based, that there might be some type of monthly fee. Did you get into the weeds of the website itself that they referred you to?
I did start to look at it. I didn't look very deeply into it. I didn't see that indicated, but I actually didn't really necessarily find the website all that helpful. But let me pull it up right now. Let's see what Cirrus LED.
I mean, I will say, honestly, I'm a huge proponent of that sign. I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to the town hall, but it will be helpful to know, is there some type of monthly fee that we're facing that I hadn't even thought of? To me, it just download it to the hard drive or something, but since it's cloud-based, just like Office 360 is cloud-based and you have to pay every year, it's just that question, is this going to be a yearly or a monthly fee?
Yeah, there is something here about subscription. He does not mention it. So that is definitely a question that needs to be answered substantively by Graphics Unlimited, because nothing that he has indicated to us mentions any of that.
Right.
So, yeah, so we'll find out.
Okay. And yeah, well, we have on the one of the items was to touch on the sign later on anyway.
So, well, we just did.
Oh no, that's fine. You know that, yeah. We just like to get through. Old business, we have EDC membership and alternates. Personally, I haven't come across any potential alternates. And I'm wondering if Brian got sworn in, Brian Lafredo.
I do not know whether or not he has come in since the last meeting, and he's on vacation now. I will do my best to try to remember to prod him about it again. I haven't spoken to Ann Montero about it either since that last time she came in. I have been speaking to Ann about Fairy Fest now and then, but the subject of her joining as an alternate has not come back up.
Yeah, at least Brian is covered, because even if he's an alternate, he fills in to make the five slots that we have. But yeah, I didn't realize until last meeting that he hadn't been sworn in yet. All right. The EDC budget, the final budget, we were going to talk about planning expenditures based on the current allowance.
So it does look like we came out of the Board of Finance process without any additional cuts over the ones that were made by Board of Selectmen. So I guess we can really look at that number now, which was, I mean, the relevant number is really the 15.
Yeah.
Let me scratch this out here. Actually, let me see if I have I think I saved the page. Did I? That's my page from my office. Is this the right one? No, that's last year's. No, this is the right one. 21-22. Here we go. So let me screen share. You guys got that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is what ended up happening. We, of course, had broken this out into categories. The Board of Selectmen opted to lump it back all in here, essentially so we could redistribute it, which is fine. And then there's also the 1,000 for the printing, which is intact. So it's really, so call it 16,000 to distribute across the various projects. So let's call those projects, based on what we've been talking about, the 11th Village, or pop-ups, however you want to, pop-ups in the budget, Trainwreck Park, and let's call it the Santos sheet, because that's what we've been talking about lately. So what do you guys think about how you want to break this up?
Well, my first question is, the pop-up.
Yeah.
We wanted to have more sheds. The way it is here in the budget, we're allowing for maybe one more. Or maybe.
Well, no, don't look at that. Don't look at that second to last line. Just think about the total 15,000 and how you want to break it out. So if we're talking about 2, you'd be talking about 6,000 coming out of that.
And we wanted to retrofit the facade to at least the first one.
That's what's happening now. The first shed just moved onto, or I should say happening now. The first shed that was at 65 Main Street just moved yesterday on site at Riverside Park.
Oh.
Dave Eddy is currently constructing the second shed, including the facade, and is going to move that into place next week. I believe the plan is to do the simplest retrofit for the one that we have, which might even be as simple as a paint job and a ramp, which he can do in situ. So he's been given a deposit of $2,067, but that was out of money that we cobbled together out of leftover sources at the end of last fiscal year, which is why we still have the $3,000 in the budget. So the $3,000 is going to pay for the new shed. So that money is resolved, or about to be resolved. So $6,000 would be theoretically 2 new sheds, which we could commission following the roll of the fiscal year on the 1st of July. So that's why I tossed that number out there. And then, so if we're talking about a total pool of 16,000, because we're also pulling the printing money into that, which I think for the purposes of discussion we can. And we're talking about Trainwreck Park and the Santos project as the 2 other remaining. I think that we had talked about in our proposed, in fact, here it is, branding initiatives, this 2,500 was what we were talking about for that Santos project, that going back to Sullivan and Lashane to sort of rejigger the website, do a little next step stuff with it. And then if there's a print element of that, this 1,000 here. So if we take that 2,500 back, that would leave 7,500 for Trainwreck Park. Not what we had hoped and proposed. I mean, about 2,500 light, in fact. But I think workable, especially when you consider that that money is intended mainly as grant match funds, at least at this juncture. So that would be what I would suggest. But if you guys have different ideas, let's talk about them.
A question here, or a thought. If we were to commission 3 of those pop-up buildings, we'd be halfway to our goal. Can we afford that this year? Could we add 1 more?
Well, you can if you take money away from something else.
Well, I don't want to cut the throat of anything else, but if it looks like we might be able to do it, that seems like a more tangible plateau to be halfway there. But I can get by with less than that too. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we don't have a shed rented until late August, which doesn't mean that we're not going to have one rented soon after we sort of show them in action. What we've done is we've upgraded a couple of the Maker Faire vendors into the sheds as examples just for the day. I, of course, you know me, I always want to hit the ground running at full speed. But, you know, it's brand new. People need to see how it works. People need to understand it. And it may take them a little while. So it may not be super hampering to have only 2 or, well, only 2 more. So only 4 on the ground in this season as opposed to 5. On the other hand, you could make the argument that having more will make it seem more complete. In either instance, we don't know, right, what the actual answer is there. So, yeah, I mean, you could go to 9,000 on the 11th Village. That would take 3,000 out of the Trainwreck Park project, unless we're going to scrap the rehiring of Sullivan and Lashane. I mean, those are the pieces you're balancing.
In that case, I'd say let's stick with 2 this year. And unless we can see a demand as a result of them being there, and as people in the area are aware that this is something to go to, that, demand,
Yeah,
supply and demand.
I can still
Yeah.
see it working either way, and we can maybe get people excited. Yes, we have these set up. Yes, we're looking forward at setting up more, coming in 2022. It would give people something to look forward to. We could spin it either way.
I agree. You could spin it either way. And like I say, my inclination is to go with the 2. The 2 additional sheds. Remember that this is supposed to be a program that generates its own income too. So if it does take off and all 4 get rented into the next year, we're still proposing less money to complete the installation, right? If it
Right.
starts to behave as planned. I'm not looking at the agenda. Is the topic of, well, let's just move the topic up if it is. One of the things we've started to do now is to talk to other outside organizers to come and, put events on in Riverside Park to try to enhance the appeal as well. We had a great conversation with my buddy Gary Summers, who used to be an appraiser on Antiques Roadshow. He's been down a couple of times now. And we are definitely working some stuff out with him. And hopefully soon, we'll have some kind of tentative schedule. So, if we're using the park more for activities, for organized events, activities, whatever it is, more concerts, car shows, vendor fairs, antiques fairs, blah, 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 that also fleshes out the appeal for other vendors. So I think those things all feed on one another.
Right.
So what is your consensus, guys? Is that the breakdown you want? 6,000 for the 11th Village, 7,500 for Trainwreck Park, and 2,500 for. I mean, it would still be under this random branding initiatives line item, but we would know it would be for the Sullivan and Lashane redo, or not redo, next step.
It would be enhancements to the website and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with that. If it's what we have to work with, it makes the most sense.
Sounds reasonable. Yeah.
All right, we'll call that our plan then. Okay.
You got something done, son of a gun.
We get stuff done all the time.
Yeah. Okay, well, if we're good with that, we'll move on to new business. And the first one I put up was EDC meeting location. Now that meetings are being allowed, we felt it was too soon because it just opened up yesterday. It was too soon to all of a sudden tell everybody, let's meet in person tonight. But what do you think about May and onward?
So technically, the executive order was sort of patched through to May 20th. Amy was able to confirm that yesterday because the question also came up for P&Z. So you have the option.
If it's May 20th, that's still a day after our next meeting.
Yeah, so you may make the choice to meet in person. But this might be a good question to pose to your recording secretary, who does not live in Thompson.
Yeah, what do you think, Ash, when it comes time? Are you going to?
I mean, I can attend in person. It's obviously much easier to be at home. But if you have in-person meetings, it's not a problem for me.
You just have to plan for it.
Yeah, yeah, as long as I know that the meeting is there, I can, everything's all set.
I went to in-person meeting for the town at the wastewater treatment plant. There were 4 of us in the room. I was the only one that wore the mask all the time. It was a small room. Some of the people that were there were a little agitated from time to time, and I found myself thinking I wasn't as comfortable as I would like to be when I'm trying to conduct business for the town or myself or anybody. I heard that there's a possibility we might be permitted to do kind of a what's the word, hybrid combination for in the future, but that it would require us to interface with the computer network up at the school. And Amy is there in the background. I hope she's hearing this. She can answer that. If that is a possibility, that's what I would vote for. But if it's not, then if we need to meet in person, I will. Especially at that meeting room in the town hall. That's big enough that we can spread out enough and feel comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm fully vaccinated, but I still found myself feeling very uncomfortable with people without their masks, less than 6 feet away, just basically on the other side of the table, and getting agitated. And I thought, this isn't, it's not a plus.
Well,
So that's my vote. I'll do it either way, but I would prefer the hybrid.
after May 20th, there's no more restrictions, no social distancing, nothing. So except masks. So let's wait for June then, if you want.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. If people feel like planning another Zoom, personally, I'm not uncomfortable. I just don't want other people to be uncomfortable. And I really hate meeting with masks on. I feel like we're not meeting at all.
Yeah. Now, I don't mind doing it on the computer. I mean, I'm used to it. You don't need to jump in your car and drive.
It's true, but I do like meeting in person. It's the kind of person I am.
Well, we all like each other, which is helpful, but just for whatever it's worth, and as you know, I'm not a voting member here, but as a person who attends multiple meetings in a week, sometimes 4 out of 5 work nights a week, Zoom has been a real gift to me. It really has. My exhaustion level is way down. And it's not that you should be making decisions based on what works for me. It should be based on what works for you. But, my observation of these meetings, and it's kind of less of a factor for this one because it's a smaller group and we don't have heavy public attendance, is that for things like document sharing with the public, Zoom is actually better. You can bring the stuff on the screen, so if they're dialed in, they can see it much closer than they otherwise would. I mean, even if we were to bring it up on the laptop, on the monitor in the Cine room, the ability to look at your own screen and enlarge it yourself is better. Like I say, I think it's less of a factor for this group than some of the other commissions that I'm involved with, but just things to consider.
In that regard, if we have stuff to share, our group is small enough that we just make copies. When we meet in person, so it's not as big an issue as if we had 20 people. But no, everybody's opinion is important. Like I said, I'm good if people want to wait another month and see how it goes. It's better to make a decision now so that people like, Ashley can plan, but.
Well, if the executive order is still in place when it's time for our next meeting, let's do that as a Zoom meeting. At least I'll make that as a motion.
So you want to go another Zoom meeting and see how it?
Yeah, then we'll see how it's all shaping out.
Do it.
That sounds, it's a good plan. I'm good with that.
Okay.
So you got that, Ashley, because you really, in some ways, are the most important. You're the only one who has to travel. So just make sure you've got that note for yourself.
Yes, one more Zoom meeting is great for me. So
Yeah, see, we like you too, so.
thank you.
You know
Okay.
what, if I'm not sharing a lot of paperwork, I mean, I've really gotten used to this over the past year. It's been really delightful, as Tara has appreciated it too. You know, it's
Yeah, I mean, the word on the street is that one of the reasons they extended it as is for a month is so they can work out some way to authorize the possibility of virtual or in-person or hybrid meetings in perpetuity, but they just haven't done that yet, which would open up the entire world of choices to you. You know, and it may be that when we get to our first in-person meeting after all this time, after the initial relief, maybe everybody will go, boy, I like you guys, but I like sitting in my living room much better.
It might be handy in the winter too.
Very handy in the winter.
I mean, I think it's great. You know, I don't have to drive 15 minutes to the town hall or 15 minutes back. So, yeah.
I agree it's more convenient. I just like meeting in person. Even though
Quick
it's,
question, are any of the people that are at this meeting tonight in our town hall?
No,
See,
unless Amy is doing work in her office.
I'm home.
Okay, see, so it's a viable platform, and I think that we finally have figured out how to do it. I understand that there's going to be people that would rather meet in person, and a lot of times I would as well. But I said I could do it either way, but I'm open to the idea that we'll go one more month and see what's happening with the ability to work out the infrastructure for it.
yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Good plan. We'll talk about it again next month. Yeah, next on new business, I mentioned briefly the did you know? I have 12 things written up there. They're either a couple of sentences or short paragraphs. And now the town hall is open up, and I'll talk with our intern. Yeah, I had almost no time since the last meeting when the town hall is open.
And just to be clear, Brian, when we are differentiating now between the did you know, which is kind of like
Yes.
occasional fun facts posting, and what we were also calling the Santos one sheet, which is the Sullivan and Lashane continuing, or potentially Sullivan and Lashane continuing with upgrades and to the website and the marketing plan and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, because I mean, actually, when you're looking at that enhancing the website stuff, did you know is kind of a misnomer. Because I mean, it is informational, but it's current events. It's mine is actually a did you know, and it's posed as a question. Did you know that Thompson was named after Sir Robert Thompson? And then it's got a couple sentences about him. Did you know that we're on one of the biggest major faults in the world in Wilsonville? That kind of thing. So it really is a did you know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just wanted to clarify that that's how we've broken down those two descriptions, because it confused me the last time, and I was pretty sure that I understood where you were going with it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just going to be something that people might tune into the website or our Facebook or something just to see what the fun fact is this month, or however often we post them. Just something to build a little interest and get people to know a little more about Thompson. I imagine eventually I'll talk to Joe and see what we can get from the historical standpoint that I don't have here. I did a lot of research over the last month just to come up with some stuff.
Excellent.
So we should have something up by the next meeting. I'll get down and talk to our intern. Yeah, and the next item under new business was the Santos one sheet. And we did bring that up at the branding meeting and talked to Dave Quinn. It was Dave Quinn, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Quinn from Quinn and Harry.
To get his input on where we should go with this. And he talked, some general, some specific things like making our EDC page look like its own site, having a couple of landing pages that we could split up and people could look, maybe one could be business and development, one could be recreation and tourism, specifically so people have an easier time getting to where they want to go.
Yeah, and you should next week try to come in maybe to talk to Renee, because I think she's started to prototype some stuff, possibly in conversation with Civic Plus already, possibly not, that I'm less sure of. But again, she's out of the office anyway at a conference all week, so it's not something you can easily get to her about this week. But yeah, I think she started to sort of develop some ideas for that Thompson CT Find Your Way, right? Which is how we were starting to phrase it. Like, why not use the tagline and the phrases and, have those landing pages be for visitors, for businesses, in that more conversational sense. So I am pretty sure she's doing some work there already.
Yeah, and she was at least going to look at some different ideas for landing pages, how we would want it to look and that kind of thing.
Yeah, she's got the closest relationship with Civic Plus. She's by far done the most conferring back and forth with them when we've looked for changes.
Okay, so yeah, we can talk about that next week.
I'm curious about something. I was at a presentation when we were looking at vendors for the website, and the company that Civic Plus came in and they couldn't hook up to the computer system. And then subsequently, they bought the company that we were leaning towards. But that company that we were leaning towards had a point of interest in their presentation that said the third year after the site was up and running, they'd be available to fix all the things that we noticed were wrong as part of the package. And I don't know, does Civic Plus have that same plan, or is this something that, well, they gave us a page and it's there, so everything that we need to change from then on is our dime? And I think it would be helpful in the long run to know that if we're going to be putting a lot of work into this page only to find out that Civic Plus would have done it all for free at a certain timeline. We're coming pretty close to that, 3 years. And so I don't even know. My memory isn't what it used to be, but that's something that I was pretty sure was going to happen.
Yeah,
well, it is another question that's better for Renee, again, because her relationship with the vendor is she just does much more interacting with them. And I do not know what the schedule for upgrades and such is with Civic Plus, which is the vendor that we went with. They definitely have upgrade options for cost. But in terms of, a cyclical contract and when sort of the natural review period comes up, I don't know.
Yeah, because it seems we were at least about to make an agreement with this company that Civic Plus bought. And I can't remember if we actually made the agreement or we were about to. Because if we made the agreement, Civic Plus would honor it because we made the agreement.
Yeah, my recollection is that we were reaching back to that company. They were in Massachusetts, and we were going to tell them, yes, we want you to do it. And they said, well, we've been bought. We've been acquired.
Actually, Ken, you were first selectman when that contract was signed. Do you remember what the terms were?
I just stepped out. What were you talking about?
The Civic Plus website, when the contract was signed, there's some questions as to when the refresh period was, like if there was a built-in after 3 years, come back and do an overhaul kind of a thing.
It was either 3 or 5. I can't remember.
Well, you remember, Ken, we were making a deal with one company and then it turned out Civic Plus bought them. And I don't remember if we made the deal before they got bought.
I believe the deal was made after they were bought out.
That would mean that there's not necessarily a 3-year review in there.
Yeah.
If it was
But
made.
in order to, if I remember correctly, in order to redesign, Renee knows it off the top of her head.
Yeah, and that's what Tara said. Renee would know more.
It's either 3 or 5 years.
All right, so maybe.
Number 3, but let's find out if it's even in the contract.
Yeah.
I mean, before we put a lot of time and money into other people, if these guys are going to do it as part of the deal, let them do it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what we would be paying for Sullivan and Lashane to do wouldn't be the implementation that Civic Plus would be doing. It would be essentially our internal framework, choices, design, that kind of thing. So that would be 2 separate functions.
Well,
Sullivan and Lashane wouldn't be going in and doing the bits and bytes.
No, they'd be doing the content, though. They'd be helping us to figure out how to put our message out, and not the widgets behind it, how it interacts with other things.
Yeah, and Civic Plus
Correct.
may have something to offer assistance with that.
Okay.
Without asking, like you said, Charlie, we don't know, so it's a good thing to find out.
Yep.
Okay, does anybody have anything else? That's all we had for new business. So going on to progress reports, the first up is the ZMAP.
Oh, let's share the draft. So pull it up here first. So we've had at least 1, maybe 2 group meetings with the project team, with another one scheduled for next week. Moving along nicely now that we finally have the vendor and all the partners confirmed and all the monies have gotten to the fiscal agent. It's like butter. All right, so I'm pulling up now. So what I'm about to screen share is just an initial draft. There's a lot still to be done here, some of which we're going to decide tonight. Can you guys see all that?
Yeah, the bottom slightly, but that's good.
I'm trying to move my participants bar so that you guys aren't in my way. Let's see if I put it over here. Okay. Okay, so this is, first things first, this is based on the actual size and number of panels of the Z Fold. So the way the little rectangles lay out is reasonably accurate. Upper right-hand and lower left-hand corners are the cardstock covers. So, and these will be reasonably consistent throughout the series. So down here in the lower left, this was an idea that came out from my equivalent position for the town of Portland. Was this mileage tracker? You know, how many miles did you do on the trail? So it motivates you to keep it, gives you a reason to come back. And each of the 7 towns will have that too. So, you know, they almost become like little trading cards, little, you know, trackers for serious hikers. So that was a great innovation, I thought. And then each town up here with, you know, Airline State Park Trail, an image, and the town. So all the rest of this real estate to some extent or another is in flux. This map, I can tell you, is not the map that's going to be used. I pulled this out of the wayfinding survey because it very conveniently showed a number of the attractions. So it was partly for the benefit of the design partner, just to sort of place them in a little context. One of the things the design partner is doing is creating a consistent set of maps utilizing the actual footprint of the airline trail for each town. So presumably one of the things we're going to review next week is going to be that. You know, these attractions in Thompson, this was based on photos that, you know, folks from this group sent me that I already had, whatever. The only reason I chose these and put them in the order, I was going sort of in order of their relative proximity to the airline trail. So, but these don't have to stay like this. That's part of what we can discuss tonight. Do we want to have more images, less text? For example, we've got little blurbs describing Fort Hill and the Speedway and West Thompson Lake here. Do we gain enough space to have more photos and just lists if we cut the descriptive blurbs entirely? Trail tips. This is just something I dropped in here based on an example that he had done for another town. This could change. You'll notice that here, this is in lorem ipsum. That's because I don't know what you guys want to say, right? This is, you know, what do you want to say about Thompson? Do we want to guide people to an events page here with one of the QR codes? Do you want to talk about other historic attractions that maybe we don't quite have good content up here for? Fun facts about the town. What is it that you want to use this space for? The where to eat here, again, these are sort of three of the better quality images of some of our local restaurants that I was able to find. Charlene's Place, Anya's. This is one from Drafters. And then the QR code that right now doesn't really go to the kind of page that we'd like, but you know, maybe that's what we need to talk about as it relates to the website landing page and upgrade project. So have at it, guys. Comments, critiques?
Yeah, I was going to ask about the QR code because it goes to eateries, and the only one that I recognized was Dunkin' Donuts.
Did you actually check this one?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think that this might be one from Portland.
Yeah.
Does that actually?
Well, I think it had our Dunkin' Donuts. Everything else was miles away. Nothing I recognized.
Okay, so I think this was a dummy QR code, but I think Renee does have one that can be dropped in here. Regardless, regardless, wherever anything lands right now that you click through is one of those, you know, very static, all text, no pictures pages. So some form of discussion is going to have to be had as to where this actually goes and what we want it to look like. But for now, the conversation should be, what do we want on the brochure?
I'd make 2 points here. First is for the people that don't have the technology to read QR codes, I think that looks very friendly. And there's going to be a good percentage of visitors into the town that won't. Second point is that the QR code that we have right now, which is on a poster along the airline trail at the kiosks, if you shoot that QR code for places to eat, you get a list. It takes you to our website, and there's a list of all the restaurants that there are in town with their links, which I think makes a whole lot of sense. That imagery right there looks good to me. as long as the QR code takes you to our restaurants. And the map looks like it could be very useful for locating the other events that we have, or other destination points that we have in town. So looks like a good draft anyway. We can tweak it up, I'm sure, text as well, but to my thinking, and I've been on this since it was a concept, it looks like a good project is coming together.
And this one, Charlie, when you click on the QR code and you click on eateries, it's not just a list. You scroll through, it's got a picture, an actual photo of the restaurant with a little cap.
I think this one's a dummy. I think that he didn't have time to swap out the one that I sent him from Renee, which Charlie, I'm pretty sure goes where you said, to the one you said.
But it was still nice. It wasn't just a list. It had an actual, not a bad idea unless it takes up too much real estate. Because you just scrolled through and you saw where the place was. It had the name and it had the town. I think it had the address in print.
So what about the stuff that's lorem ipsum here? You know, what do you want to use this text and space for? What are the things that would be the highest, best use for this box?
I don't know. I've been thinking about that, and I haven't come to any kind of a useful conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something simple, you know, welcome to Thompson. We could mention, you know, some of the outside activities, which is kind of what we stress. Boating, hiking, biking. Doesn't have to be very wordy. But yeah, we could come up with something just, you know, what we're about and what we're trying to promote.
Okay.
We could even put our logo there.
Yeah, we could put the seal. I know I sent him not the seal, the new logo. I mean, he had asked for the seal, and what I sent him was the new branding image because I think that's more appropriate to this project. And he hasn't dropped it in yet. So this could be a place for that.
I'm wondering if we might want to have a code there, a QR code there that will take people to the Town of Thompson's webpage.
That would be a good idea, I think, because you don't want to be too specific in this box.
Yeah, just like even with listing a lot of the names of individual restaurants. I went through my takeout menus the other day and found 3 restaurants within 15 miles of here that are closed.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, and never to reopen. So that's very much subject to becoming a dated cul-de-sac. I don't think that we want more information than that.
No,
and to Brian's point, that and to confirm, that's the Portland tourism that comes up when you shoot that code in front of the where to eat. But the concept is there. It's a proof of concept. It works.
Yeah.
And our page that we already have is fairly robust for that. Off of the EDC webpage, it's places to eat. And it's, like I said, it's fairly robust already.
Okay, so how about the 5 chosen attractions up here? There's the open question of, do we want to keep the blurbs or trim the blurbs, just have the, you know, names, addresses, and possibly websites so that we can maybe squeeze in another one, although it would be quite a squeeze. But it's probably not impossible.
We could see how it works. I mean, a little less wordy is always good, especially if they can get the information somewhere else, like from a website or a QR code or.
Well, does anything stand out as being glaringly missing? I guess that's the real question. Is this enough? Is there something else?
Well, it might be nice if you show pictures a picture of our dinosaur.
That's
The
what I was
dinosaur.
just gonna ask, T-Rex.
Oh, dinosaurs. Yeah, dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs are always popular. And in the box that is in the lower left-hand corner, what do we want to say about the town? Do we want to emphasize the location? Can we do that in two short sentences?
In what way do you mean, Charlie? Emphasize the location.
How easy we are to get to from Boston or Providence or Hartford. Flip it the other way around. If you want a good place to go, we're close enough to Boston and Providence and Hartford. That also plays to the reverse side. If you live here and work in one of these other areas, it's not so bad of a commute as some others.
I see what you're saying.
That's good information because it's something that won't change. We're not moving.
Not very fast. If we do, we'll have other things to worry about.
The information that's not so static can be on the website, and because that changes, businesses change. But the proximity and a brief blurb about our hiking, biking stuff, that would fill that box nicely without being too crowded.
Okay.
The map itself almost tells that story, but it doesn't quite. It's too localized to show how close we are to Boston or Worcester or Springfield. So that's why I think there would be a place to, rather than modify that map very much, put that kind of information someplace. And I don't care whether it's reaching with a QR code. I like the idea of having somebody can carry the map around with them, and they can know that Thompson is a place that one time there, it's easy to get to, and go up to Fenway and watch a ball game or something.
Yeah.
Polar Park, which, by the way, is hideous. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to be by Polar Park yet. It is god awful. They spent, I don't know how much money up there.
Lots of money.
And, you look at the renderings, and the renderings are so nice. They managed to spend all those millions of dollars, and they made it look like a 70-year-old stadium. It's the intersection improvements are fantastic. Kelly Square is so much better.
Oh,
the structure
itself.
The structure itself is hideous. Absolutely hideous. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I was just up there last week, which is why it was on my mind. All right. Well, anybody have anything else they want to jump on here? We're going to have a meeting next week. Off the top of my head, I want to say it's Thursday. Although I'd have to go back and actually I can tell you in a second. Maybe I can't tell you in a second. I can, I'm sure. I sent my confirmation just today to everybody.
Do we have I'm just looking at these pictures again, the Thompson Speedway Motorsports part. A better
Wednesday at 11.
Okay. I was thinking a better picture for Thompson Speedway would be, cars racing around one of the corners.
I asked John for pictures, and he didn't send me anything. I'm pretty sure that image actually is one that Quinn and Harry has, because Quinn and Harry is also working with the Speedway. I didn't have any good pictures to send of the Speedway. Nobody sent me any. I didn't have any in my files. The way their website is set up, I wasn't able to copy them adequately. So that, I'm pretty sure, is where that one came from. But I will try John again, because I agree that that's not a super dynamic photo.
And I might have something too. I've taken pictures of some of the cars when they did the drift cars and stuff. If John doesn't come through, I can at least look. I even have pictures of our old cars lined up on the track when they had vintage race day. Even that is better than this.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a better image there. So Brian, if you could make a note to yourself to send them to me so I have them in the can, and then I'll try to get back in touch with John. He sometimes he's really quick to reply, but when he's in the weeds, it can take weeks.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Anybody have anything else on that? Otherwise, Charlie and Brian and I will be representing, or maybe not Lafredo. I think he'll still be away. But yeah, next call with the project partners is Wednesday at 11 of this coming week. And we've been moving, like I say, very fast. Once there are drafts that people are happy with, this thing is going to end up going to print, I'll bet you, sometime in the month of May. That's the current plan.
Great.
So I don't think it's going to be long till we see these 6,000 come to us in boxes.
Okay.
I just did a quick search on Thompson Speedway and their Facebook page came up and there's images on there that we can probably grab one.
Oh, I didn't even, isn't that stupid? I didn't even think of looking at the Facebook page. I was just looking at the website. Yeah, I'll look at that too, Charlie. Thank you for the prompt.
Okay, are we set with that for now?
If you guys are.
Okay. Yeah, next up was website notes in case anybody saw anything that needed attention since the last month. Anything we had posted wrong or outdated or. And yeah, I haven't noticed anything myself. Following that, we had POCD action steps, and we are taking steps with the one sheet and the did you know, and I don't think we need more discussion on that right this minute unless someone else has something to say.
I think we're doing pretty well on the short-term goals right now. I think once we start to clear some of those, then, maybe branching out into some of the longer-term goals will be more of a set of talking points.
Yeah.
I have to say I'm pretty pleased with the progress that, a couple of the groups are making who, had a big part in drafting the document. So it's top of mind. Yeah, I will say, I will say that POCD is coming very in handy for me lately. I have definitely entered the copy and paste phase of my career. The stuff that I'm working on with the National Park Service partners for Trainwreck Park and a couple of grant applications and even a grant application that Melinda and Leslie sent in. It's just been, oh yeah, we already talked about this, and sending it over so they can adapt it for their use or so that I can drop it in mine and adapt. It's been very helpful.
Oh, that's good. Next, we have 65 Main, and you wanted to talk about the bid for foundation repair.
Yeah, so Amy, I'm going to pull you in on this too. So we still have that, the 10 grand that we had intended to utilize for that foundation repair when we ran into the bobble with the Board of Selectmen in the fall. Under the circumstances, it seems appropriate to open that process again. I can easily get back in touch with the kid who came up. I mean, God, he drove up here from Bristol like a half a dozen times to see if he's still interested. I just want to be sure there's no structural barriers there before we approach that. Are you there, Amy, or did you step away?
I'm kind of jumping between two meetings. We have our RTC meeting tonight. So I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Were you
That's
talking
okay.
about, you can hear Jason talking in the background. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, we were talking about potentially going back out to bid with the money that we had from last year's budget still, plus the private donations to at least get the foundation stabilized. It seems like the logical thing to do would be at least to get that first step under wraps while we're waiting for some of these other grant requests to process through. So
If
go ahead.
I understand the bid process, it just would have to go before the Board of Selectmen.
Right. So, you know, if you don't think there's any further structural, meaning, you know, procedural barriers there, I will certainly get back in touch with that kid who bid and see if he's still interested.
Right. Again, I think that the fact that the Board of Ed had turned down or they didn't approve the money from Turtle Lot Trust. I didn't know that was going to happen. I think there's a lot of what ifs. I can't guarantee that as a board, the Board of Selectmen will say, yeah, go ahead and fix the foundation without having some type of solid grant funding in place to ensure that the whole entire property can be fixed.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest with that new twist. I mean,
Right. That's why we bring it up.
Right. I'm still hoping that appropriation that you had applied for will come through for us.
Oh, believe me, so am I. The other piece is the Neighborhood Assistance Act request, which I've started working on now. There is also a component that the Board of Selectmen would have to take on for that, which is the municipality has to approve, you know, registering the project, and a public hearing has to be scheduled. Those are two municipal steps.
Okay.
Again, that doesn't touch the trust money, but does set up the possibility of generating other match funds. So those are the two pieces I think that we can proceed with, regardless of the status of what's going on with the trust, although hopefully we'll have some of that resolved next week as well. So what are your thoughts there?
My thought is, I mean, it's just my personal opinion. If you can show that there's some type of financial aid that's coming in, that'll go a long way towards at least taking the step for, I'm sorry, Jason and I are talking at the same time. I really hope you all can't hear us. I'm
it's
so
just
sorry.
Background noise. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
It's very distracting and it's not his fault or my fault. But, no, if we can show some type of financial support for the project, that will go a long way with convincing, I know myself and Suzanne, that we can move forward and do any type of work with the structure. So.
Okay. All right. So I'll keep working on the Neighborhood Assistance Act bit, and you can probably expect then that I'll have something formal to give to the board within a week or two. Yeah, and as long as that project is registered by the 1st of July, then it becomes eligible to receive business contributions.
Okay. And that'll
okay.
be fantastic.
I have a
All right.
question.
So
I'd like
go ahead, Charlie.
clarification. I heard Amy say something about the Board of Education didn't want to cooperate with the trust. How was that language? It just came up.
The way the bylaws, the way the ordinance is written and the bylaws for the trust, the trustees make recommendations for the disbursement of trust funds to the Board of Education, who then approves or disapproves them. I wasn't in that Board of Ed meeting because as that process was described to me, it was essentially like a rubber stamp. However, that is not what happened this time. The Board of Ed opted to reject the recommendation of the trust to spend those funds. So Brian Santos and I are going to relitigate the issue at a special meeting of the trust to which the Board of Ed members have been invited, hopefully to find an amenable solution. And that's next week, next Thursday at 6, next Thursday at 6 via Zoom, I assume. So it was a setback after an initial breakthrough, but still hopeful that we will find our correct point to break through, and just clear those obstacles.
Okay,
So
then one more question. Aren't the
Yeah.
funds of the trust encumbered just for the properties? But that would include the old high school too, wouldn't it?
So the opinion of some members of the trust, as they have described it, and members of the Board of Education as well, is that only the 1909 high school building is covered by the mandate of the trust. That's not a totally wild statement, although it does sort of beggar the logic a little bit, but there is a reason why some of them think that. It was left out of the charter of the trust because at the time the 1909 school building was in such bad repair and the Turtle Lot house had a tenant who was maintaining it, yada, yada, yada. So it was just like a bad choice at the beginning is now hampering us at this point. There are obstacles to be cleared, right? There are obstacles to be cleared, and we'll find ways to clear them. So based on the vote of the trust to authorize the potential use of the funds for match for grants, 2 grant requests have already been sent in. One actually that doesn't have anything to do with the trust funds, which is the programming. That was the same one I sent out last year to a different USDA program. That's all done with in-kind match. But the big one was an appropriations request to Representative Courtney's office, which is a part of the American Rescue Plan package. Now, it is not clear what or how much match funding is anticipated from applicants in that. Reading between the lines, I think the more match you have, the more favorable it appears. And at the time I submitted that application, it appeared that we had the funds matched from the trust. So there's a disparity there, but I should know if that is going to advance to the next round of consideration within a week or so. So that's one avenue, and that was like, I requested the whole nut, so we'll see. And then the other thing is this Department of Revenue Services program called the Neighborhood Assistance Act, whereby nonprofits and municipalities can register projects to receive business contributions, cash contributions, not in kind in this case. And if they are accepted into the NAA program, then the businesses, depending on the nature of the project, can get either a 60% or a 100% tax credit. So it works out well, but it's only eligible for businesses. So that's what I just started working on for real over the last week. It's sort of a simple application, but it's almost too simple. They ask you to describe the programs, and then the online form gives you like 2 sentences worth of, which is not super helpful. But I have a contact now at DRS that I'm working with, so I should have that formed intelligently within a week or so.
I was very surprised and a little distressed to hear of this because it was discussed at the Historical Society meeting, and we got the impression that the trustees for the Turtle Lot Trust voted, yes, let's go with this. And now I'm hearing that somebody else has a veto power, so.
Well, yeah, that is how it's constituted. And while you could make the argument that it was just intended to have the bodies ratify the decision of the trustees, which I think it probably was intended as, the letter of it is the letter of it. They have the ability to kibosh it. What they don't have the ability to do under the letter of those documents is turn back around to the trust and say, no, you have to use it for this other purpose. In other words, the trustees can advise the BOE, and the BOE can accept or reject the advice, but the BOE doesn't turn around and say, we're telling you to use your funds this way. It has the same effect in the end, right? Because the organizations have to agree, at least in theory. But that's what it is. That's how it was written. So we'll work with what we've got.
Okay. All right. I'm looking at the agenda and somehow one of them got left out. Because I have it on mine and not on the one that got sent out. And that was the sign. I told you we have the sign, the town hall sign later on. And it was just to inform people that, you know, we looked at the two options, we chose an option. And you had talked about discussing encumbering the funds.
Well, the funds are encumbered. The suggestion was just that you guys formally vote to say, essentially, that you approve releasing them for the project, and that's more for Orla. That's just so Orla's got the paper trail.
Okay. Somebody, and that was what, 11,000 and 10,000 that we had.
The EDC funds that are encumbered are 10,000 even, and I think those were encumbered either 2018 into 19 or 19 into 20. I think probably 19 into 20. The remaining funds, which are almost 11,000, are out of the IOB. That is being held by Orla in an account that she uses for grant money. I don't know if she has that, and I've encumbered both of those amounts to Graphics Unlimited. I'm not 100% sure that EDC needs to vote on the IOB, but you may as well, because then it still creates the trail of approvals.
Yeah, and that was my question, pretty much whether we had to vote on both sums.
I'll make a motion that we approve the expenditures of the funds from those two sources. I wonder, do we need to stipulate it based on whether or not there's a issue with a subscription fee? Just curious. I mean, I don't need to put that in the motion, but I'm wondering if we do need to, because of what Amy said earlier.
Well,
I don't think so, because if we opt not to spend them, we opt not to spend them.
Okay. I make a motion that we expend the funds that were encumbered for the sign from both of the sources.
I'll second.
Okay, Joanne seconded. Any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any disapproving? Okay, the motion passes to release the funds.
All right, I will get right on it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was number 2 on the progress reports, and it didn't show up on the one that got mailed. Almost to the end. Now we have Maker Faire, 11th Village, and we're looking for volunteers for May 1st, right?
I think we probably will need more volunteers. It's another one of those things. It's too bad Renee and Leslie are out this week because they're more involved with those on the ground details. Charlie, I think, has already volunteered to help us mark lines on the Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
I'll be doing that with Charlie and maybe Beth Goldsmith. Just some people to show up, I think, mostly at the beginning of the event to help direct vendors. Breakdown was pretty simple. I don't think we need anybody additional at the end, but it is nice to have, extra people there, particularly at the setup, because that's when there's that whole flurry. Everybody coming in at the same time. Where do I go? Where do I go? Not everybody manages their stress levels well on event days. Stuff like that. And again, sadly, Leslie and Renee are both much more involved in that set of details. So the exact tasks that they would want to assign would be better described by them. But if you're going to be around, I'm sure we're going to need some help.
Yeah, I should be able to help too. And if I get a chance, I can always ask them if there's something specific.
And
Yeah.
what time will you want us to show up if we're going to help set up on the 1st?
We have invited vendors to start showing up as early as 9. So I think Leslie is planning on having our volunteers start working around 8. That doesn't necessarily mean everybody, but use that as a target.
Well, I'll let you know on the Friday when we're down there whether I can make it.
Okay.
Or not.
That works. Fingers crossed for rain right now, for sun. Right now, there's rain in the forecast for the 1st, but that's over a week out, so anything could change. I mean, we have the rain date of the 8th. Everybody hates a rain date. I hate a rain date. Everybody wants to do it when it's planned.
They never work because people are so booked up.
Well, this year people are still less booked up than they were than they would normally be, because we're at the tail end of the COVID restrictions. But even so, the excitement's always around the date.
Yeah. All right.
Leslie and I are going on Winnie on Monday morning at 7:30 to promote, and on her behalf, I just agreed a promotional package on Winnie with Gary today. So for those of you who are regular Winnie listeners, you should start hearing those soon. Mentioned that we are working, trying to really work on developing a set program for outside vendors to come in. We're getting very close to that. Like I said, my buddy from Antiques Roadshow and a local person whom he knows, who he's worked with before, met with me and Renee and Leslie and not Jamie, but Dino last week to try to figure out what do we really need people to have prepared? What kind of insurances? What kind of costs should they expect for permits and yada, yada, yada. So we're getting there.
Now that we're talking about the 11th Village, we might want to put that on the map, on one of those panels.
Well,
Nice
because we're going.
Of it, though.
Yeah, because we're going into it for the first time, we don't have a good inventory of pictures.
Okay.
There's nobody going to be in there yet until the last weekend in August, and that might change, but I just don't think that this is the point for that.
Yeah, could be a good thing next year, depending how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, the brochures will last for a while probably because we're getting so many, although I'm going to try to work with TLGV to distribute some with their Walktober booklets. I got to talk. In fact, I'm going to see Fran Kafalis tomorrow, so I'll talk to her about that. But, it's not likely we're going to print them every year, but we'll have the source files to do that, to do reprints going forward. So if we want to change information as things develop and we get more permanent attractions, then yeah, that's a good way to handle it later.
Okay. The last item on progress reports is the Trainwreck Park.
We've got a workshop scheduled for the 12th of May, I think it is off the top of my head.
Yes.
Wednesday night. So that's going to be the UConn students doing their final presentation. The Putnam, I can't remember if it's Rotary, not Lions. I can never remember. Putnam Rotary youth group is going to have a piece of that that they took on. I don't even know what that is, so that's going to be surprise information for me. We're going to do it with some more polling questions, so I'm going to upgrade my Zoom account to webinar for the month of May, so we can get a little more feedback. And then once that is in the can, I've got most of the pieces to put the Connecticut Humanities Grant in for the first set of signs, which will expend our train wreck park money from this past year. And Steph and Elizabeth and Mallory from NPS and I are working, even as we speak, so to speak, on their final Trail Town report, which is sort of the big project synopsis for the whole 2-year program that they're going to leave us with as, the roadmap for the full implementation, and as another one of these sources to write grants against. These are the goals. This is how we arrived at these goals. These are our estimated costs. These are the designs that we've chosen. Here's the history, yada, 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 yada. So another sort of big writing project, but one that will come in handy. So things are, moving. Some things are wrapping up.
Cool.
I have one other note about the train wreck park area is that the Historical Society is hosting a Connecticut Trails Day walk on June 5th. And we've got 6 leaders, because a leader can only have 14 people in the group with them. And we're asking, in fact, it's already showing up on their site to say, when they're registered, we're going to be going in 20-minute increments so that we're trying to spread out the crowd. And maybe some of the materials that come up, by June 5th, we might be able to hand out some of those maps, Z-fold maps. But,
well, that was certainly our first hope. I would be thrilled if we can hit Connecticut Trails Day, but I think that's super ambitious.
Okay.
But fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to print them once everything is set and it's a go.
The physical printing of the individual brochures is not necessarily the issue. It's work queue. I had asked the vendor what their turn time was, and he said probably 2 to 3 weeks once they get the thing transmitted. So I'm sure that's, plus there's shipping involved. It's not like it's being done at a place around the corner. And there's 7 different runs of them that they've got to set up. Right, so they all have the same side A and 7 different sides B. So it's a multi-part project, but we do have the estimate of 2 to 3 weeks to produce once we send the design over. So it's not impossible we'll get them for Trails Day, but I wouldn't hold my breath for that.
Okay. Do we have any other comments by commission members?
Go, is that Joanne?
I said, I'm okay. I'm good.
Okay. All right, well, next meeting is May 19th. We'll do another Zoom and then discuss location again at that time. And if nobody has anything else, I'd like to adjourn at 7:59.
Good night, everybody.
Perfect timing. Good night.
See ya.
Thank you.